2020, and this is your market update for the Philippine stock market. So we could see that for the day, actually it was a decisively very weak day. You could see in the statistics of the index that our market value for the day is 4.2 billion. When we hit morning open all the way till the afternoon close, it was just all downhill from there. Now let's take a look for the week, what actually happened for this week. Let's start with some earnings and then let's go to the price action later. So one of the most important news flow for the week would be, I'd say it would be the recovery plan of the Philippines in the face of so many bad news. Particularly, let's see each bad news that has happened for the week. There's nearly 10,000 people who are now evacuating Samar due to Typhoon Ambo, and the power is out in the whole province of Samar. This is northern Samar, and we have a typhoon there packing heavy rains and strong winds, as well as, of course, the COVID pandemic. So this is a very difficult way for the policies of the government to prevent possible contamination. So that is something that is very difficult to handle. And their officials are saying that even if they have been preparing relief goods to the disasters for Eastern Samar and Northern Samar, malayo pa rin ang projections. At least 300,000 will still have to leave their homes. Now, the State Weather Bureau has already warned potentially a life-threatening storm surging 2 to 4 meters high may also hit Northern Samar, Eastern Samar, Samar, Sorsogon, Albay, Catanduanes, Camarines Sur, Camarines Norte, Quezon, and Aurora. So updates from Pag-asa and Ambo, Philippines can be checked online. That is one bad news that we have to grapple with. Now, another bad news that we have to share is that Boracay has already cost Aklan more than 11 billion pesos in lost revenues. This is based on all the tourist arrivals in Boracay versus last year in 2019. So this is due to the COVID pandemic, and these are the Department of Tourism. These estimates are expected to suffer more losses in the next coming months, as Aklan, which is Boracay, always saw 2.2 million tourist arrivals and entered 62 billion pesos in tourist receipts. Now, the province contributes a huge chunk of tourism to the entire Western Visayas region, seeing about 6 million tourist arrivals for the year. Our government, Joey Salceda, has already projected as well that more than 14 million workers can now go back to work under the new quarantine measures. Inside this article, though, the House of Committee Representative, Albay Representative Joey Salceda, has said that starting May 16, that will be tomorrow, until May 31, we are now moving from ECQ to modified ECQ. And some cities are now going from modified ECQ to general community quarantine, GCQ. However, despite these things, already we are estimating, in terms of the employment impact of COVID-19, our government is already estimating at least 1 million jobs have already been lost, with more job losses to come as the full impact of the pandemic on the financial position of companies are quantified. They're expecting at least 1 million jobs have already been lost, and some of which are 100,000 are permanent job losses. 126,000 are job losses. For perspective, they would have to create an equivalent number of jobs in the infrastructure sector, which is a 94 billion peso investment, in order to offset these loss of jobs. Meanwhile, they're also saying that more than 2,500 new cases within 2 weeks are declining every week due to contact testing and tracing. They believe that they could they want to recommend 40,000 tests a day if they can, and that's something that's being done with Secretary Dizon and Finance Secretary Sunny Dominguez. These are some of the bad news that you have to know. Of course, the airlines are seeking additional government help. Airlines including AirAsia, Cebu Pacific, Philippine Airlines, and their affiliates. So far, this is how the government is responding. The Philippine government has already done a cut of our corporate rates. Let me read that news. So there is this news, corporate income tax on the good news side. Due to all those negative news, our government has already pushed the government tax cut down from 30% to 25%. And this is being pushed by our Social Economic Planning Secretary, Carl Kendrick Chua. He said that for the Sulong Pilipinas, they're also trying to reprioritize about 4 trillion pesos of 2020 budget for the Build infrastructure program in order to create jobs, increase incomes, in order to offset any potential job losses from the COVID impact. Now, Finance Secretary Dominguez is also saying that these packages would cost anywhere, the Philippine Progreso package, which is a consumer loan, which is being extended out, is going to be from 130 to 160 billion pesos, which would bring the multiplier effect to about 800 billion to a trillion pesos in value added to economy as they try to provide loans and bayanihan to heal as one in order for the economy to recuperate and recover due to all these problems of COVID. They are pitching these 3 bills, Bayanihan 2 for spending and capital support, restoring consumers' jobs and incomes. They're doing a follow-through to Bayanihan Hilas 1 Act containing the government's initial COVID response, the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentive for Enterprises Act, which is CREATE. This is an upgraded version of the CITIRA bill, and you have a proposed 2021 national budget to be approved, which is 4.18 trillion pesos. This will be approved by next week, Tuesday, on the Cabinet Level Development Budget Coordination Committee. Of course, they're also trying to do, aside from that 25% cut, they want to reduce this tax to 20% over the next 10 years so that the losses this year could be credited to future tax payment by the companies involved. Based on these presentations, the new investors that would come to the Philippines to create jobs are incentivized and being targeted to make proactive investments, supplying the necessary investors that Philippines wants, whether it's from China or from other countries. These are the good initiatives of our government so far. Cebu City, this is a new news. Cebu Airport is now preparing the new normal in travel. So the management of Mactan Cebu International Airport is saying that by tomorrow, they're already downgrading their ECQ to GCQ from May 16 to May 31. Now, the general manager of Mega-wide Cebu Airport said that the company's measures will take adherence to the guidelines of the IATF, the Interagency Task Force, for the management of emerging infectious diseases. Okay, so basically our country wants to open up. You could see that from the news, liquidity support, tax perks to boost recovery. Our collection is seen to be lower this year to about 2 trillion pesos. That's about 20% lower from last year. We're also seeing a lot of Filipinos, basically these are restrictions on the OFW departures. Philippines is now allowing all of our OFWs to go abroad again, and so that they can probably try to work land-based or sea-based Filipino workers can seek employment in another country as long as they sign a declaration signifying the knowledge of the risk of going overseas. For the land-based and sea-based OFWs that are going to be allowed to go abroad, it could be recalled that only Filipino healthcare workers with perfect OFW contracts as of March 8, 2020 were allowed to leave the country last month. So as you could see, the Philippine government is preparing our country to get back on its feet. Now, this is a commentary that I like to read. I like to share. Actually, this comes from Lito Villanueva. He's an RCBC Executive Vice President, as well as the Chief of Digital Transformation Advisor for Yuchenko Group of Companies. From this article, which is published in Philstar, we could just read that COVID-19 disrupts legacy banking. They're saying that over-the-counter banking is a social distancing victim, as more and more people will, of course, be using the digital armies, digital banks for their businesses. So they expect a decline of up to 50% in branch-based operations due to the wake of the pandemic. They also believe that fear of contracting the deadly disease will make everybody, as much as possible, go digital. So they're saying that back from home is their digital cry. Quickly responding, the new web signups have been more than double due to the strong ECQ in just a few weeks' time. The banks have been stepping up and increasing knowledge through social media. A lot of banks are already doing charge-free fund transfers so as to incentivize people to enable wider use of their digital channels. In this case, RCBC Online. We've also seen this in all our banks, whether it's BDO, BPI, Metro Bank, you name it. So the more that banks offer these secure, convenient, fast digital alternatives to clients, the more that institutions will drive their business away from physical banks, and the use of web and app platforms will be a matter of necessity rather than preference. Welcome to the era of high-tech, no-touch yet empathy-filled customer interface. Brick-and-mortar bank branches will become obsolete. Now, these aren't negative in any way because the drivers of the Filipino shift to digital banking has always been there for the longest time. And this actually just accelerates Philippines to become acquainted to the new normal. Some of the news that you should know is that today Mrs. G has declared cash dividends of 6 centavos. So that's a good thing. The company is trading at about 160. It closed at 166. So that would be about 4%, is it? 6 cents. Yeah, about 3 to 4% yield at current price. So that's a good thing for Mrs. G, giving a cash dividend. We're also seeing these news flows. DMCI Holdings earnings are down 78% to 616 million pesos. DMCI, which is an engineering conglomerate, has seen its earnings fall down 80% due to the following. First and foremost, there is a sales cancellations of DMCI Homes project in Davao, which was a non-recurring loss of 400 million pesos. Then there's that 90 million pesos drop due to the accelerated depreciation of Calaca Units 1 and 2 last year. Core income fell from about 2.8 billion to 1 billion. Their results are weighed down by operational headwinds, lower market prices, and the initial effects of the ECQ, said Isidro Consunji, the DNCI chairman. They are saying that the challenges will still be fully happening until the next 2-3 quarters, and they believe that the lower margins for their projects, higher depreciation, and productivity losses due to the ECQ will result in a net income contribution to about 350 to about 170 million. So also they're saying net income contribution from Maynilad fell 13% from 436 million to 379 million pesos. You could look at DMCI's earnings front yourself, just read through their investor relations department. We're also seeing, of course, Bloom was making a report last night. Just to give you some facts on Maxis CEO Robert Trota was seen in a PFA, Philippine Franchise Association, had an e-kapihan. This is a Zoom webinar that was also televised, telecasted, remote casted on your Facebook pages. I just gave more like highlights on what he was saying during that call. Maxis President CEO Robert Trota has 690 sites in the Philippines, 70 are abroad. Now, these 760 sites composed of Maxis, Pancake House, Krispy Kreme, Jamba Juice, Yellow Cab, Sizzling Steak, Cabecera, Maple, Dentious Grill. And they're saying that because of a crisis, you do bring out the best in everybody. so that we could recover sooner than later. They were saying that they preserve inventory. They went into a shutdown mode. Maxis has been here in 75 years. They executed their mobile app platform. They had commissaries in place. Within those days, they were launching Pledge a Plate, serving 35,000 meals. They were saying that their response was critical, not waiting a week. Everything had urgency in it. He was saying that he was amazed with his team. They had constant Google Hangout meetings. They've been cutting costs. They're also saying that they might close if close their currently their areas are closed, but 50% of their stores are outside the malls, which are operational. So there was still an opportunity for takeout delivery. Multiple brands helped them, so they had a variety of customers, making the company more resilient during this time. As of today, they still have 300 stores. That today means yesterday, which is May 14. They have 300 stores open, serving takeout and delivery. Now, their dining in usually represented 70% of their sales, but they are happy to say that so far their delivery and takeout has doubled and tripled, helping offset that decline of sales. They're also rechanneling all their efforts and operations, focusing on deliveries due to this stay-at-home movement. Work from home agents are now aggressive. They have created a lot of ready to cook, ready to eat meals. They have their own trucks where they can pre-order. People can pre-order and roll it out across different communities. So they believe that dining will not come back overnight. However, after all the fear and anxiety, never mind, they will still serve and they will have their own fleet, as well as embracing all the food aggregators such as Grab, Lala Food, which means they can recover to the new normal. They believe that they can work on achieving their sales even with closed operations, closed stores, which has no operating income. They also foresee that stores, these could drop to 500 stores in the next few years if if the operations of some stores do not have enough operating income to survive. So that's something that the company is sharing to their people. Now let's talk about some price action for the week. This week, I think the most important news was the MSCI. And I think one of the most important things is that we have a victim. And in that victim front, we now have Macro Asia trading at a new low. It's now trading at 3.8. Let's go to the charts. Let's look at what happened in the ones that got deleted, the ones that are added, and essentially what's happened to the Philippine market overall. Now, the Philippine market overall, we could say for the week has been, I would say, we had some good moves, but the good moves was lower than the bad moves. So we had more declines this week rather than up moves. Looking into your index, let's go to the stats. Let's go to our analytics. This week, we've seen quite a rebound on your PLDT and Globe. Globe actually fell about 2,080 for the week. And we actually mentioned that in our update that, okay, we like these companies, Globe 2,080, get in. So far, that was right. Globe ended this week about 2,230. That was a significant about 5-6% move for the week. Not so bad, given that this entire week was particularly a down move for the PSEI and most of the index names. So if you look at the PSEI, a percentage change for the week, you could see that there has been really bad moves. Security Bank is down 9% for the week. SM Prime is down 6% for the week. Security Bank and SM Prime, we could say they fell because of the MSCI. Security Bank was actually deleted at the expense of Pure Gold. So Pure Gold is added. However, even if Pure Gold got added this week in the MSCI, Pure Gold still got sold down to about 46, which is down 3%. Nevertheless, that would still make Pure Gold still strong because year-to-date change for Pure Gold remains 15% up for the year. As you can see, the strongest companies for your year this 2020 is PLDT, Pure Gold, Globe, URC. These four are actually part of our G Pump picks, as well as Mrs. G. Now, Mrs. G is not part of your PSEI index, but we think that the groceries as a sector should do very well for this year. Now, let's take a look on a week-to-date change on which companies went up. For this week, Meralco went up 8%. It actually moved from about 255 to about closing of 275 this week. Not so bad. URC also moved pretty well, 35% this week. BPI was actually a bit of an anomaly amongst the banks as BPI actually went up 6%, whereas the other banks actually fell mostly near their lows. Of course, Security Bank had their own MSCI, but BDO, Metro Bank, all falling down this week as well. So I would say that BPI is quite an anomaly for the week. The other things, okay, so Bloomberry got shared their earnings. So far from a week-to-date change, we're seeing that Bloomberry has stayed on at the 530, 540 levels. So it's still strong. RHI, even what I mean with still strong is that even after that negative 40, they had earnings drop to about 1.4 billion pesos. So even if their earnings wasn't as good as expected, the market didn't sell them down so badly. So that's all that I meant. Now for RHI, we're seeing that it was able to hold on to its gains for the year. It's actually one of those strongest companies so far. RHI for the quarter or for 3 months is already up 20%, and week-to-date change is 3%. RHI actually also served cash dividends this week of about a peso per share. They declared that. So Globe I think has already declared cash dividends. So far the companies in your telecom sector are one of the most resilient companies in the Philippines. Now, from a most active perspective, today is a definite down day. You see everything down 3, down la la la. Of course, SM Prime was a victim. Even if, so actually yesterday I was surprised why SM Prime was rising. Now I think the market is, I don't know, maybe the market also agrees that the malls or the properties in general are having a hard time. So, and SM Prime got kicked out, I mean, not kicked out, but decreased weighting in your MSCI. So from now until about end of the month, you would still see negative outflows for your PSEI. Let's take a look at your PSEI, your Philippine Stock Index. I would say that this week belongs mostly to the bears. You didn't have a lot of moves for the week, and you closed on the downside, which may show that people are afraid that even if we reopen, that the demand will not come back, as you can see. Now, for the most negative moves, we've seen Macro Asia get dumped to new lows this week. This is already a new low. We're hitting 380 today. That is a new low. With volume, as you can see, ever since this week, after the MSCI announcement, trading from 460 all the way to 380, it is now at an all-time low. Well, not an all-time low, but it's a new low for the year. So that is a trouble for Macro Asia. M-Wide also got decreased or deleted in your MSCI, and we're still also seeing Mega-Wide continue to fall down, also nearing new lows. So definitely all your, not yet new low, but it is near there. So MSCI victims are really getting hit badly. Security Bank hasn't broken 80 pesos, but we shall see whether next week if it will fall. But definitely you could see that the week has more decliners than risers. Now, amongst the ones that got added, Pure Gold initially went up on the news, hitting about 50, but retraced that gain all the way down to 46. It's still within that range, but you could see that the market doesn't seem to respond to good news. Mrs. G, even with a 6 centavo cash dividend, was also sold down today from about but it actually went up and then got sold down at the close from 180 to 166. Now it remains to be seen whether we get earnings reprieve or we get people reacting to good. But so far, Pure Gold and Mrs. G, despite having good news, is not being responsive. The prices are not being responsive to that news. Yeah, so I think for the week, you know what's happening. We will try to see whether the market can have a recovery for next week despite the MSCI outflows and despite the general uncertainty of Philippines reopening status starting May 16 to May 31. Okay, with that said, see you again next week. I'll see you again on Monday. Thank you and goodbye.